Question. In the material it was said that the word Datre, chosen for identification by the energies, was chosen for its frequencies. Frequencies that most closely illustrate their frequencies. As I have passed on the session materials to others, there have been many questions on the intended pronunciation of Datre. Is the proper sounding of it to perhaps more closely resonate with the frequencies? Is there a proper way to sound the word Datre? Would you type it phonically if it indeed makes a difference? Datre, that is good, that is good. If you read it and you have no sound, that is good, because then you are picking up a vibration, and that is very good. If you want to know how to pronounce it, we say, Datre. Now that is as close as we can come. You see, there are many on your planet that are given names at birth that do not fit the individual. You will find that as the child matures, they no longer want to be called by that name. They will find what you call a nickname or a middle name or another name that they will pick up that carries the vibration that is familiar to them. So the vibration of a name is very important to many individuals. Sometimes adding another letter to a name, like a double T or a double L or whatever. In writing a name, when that individual writes that name, that is carrying a certain vibration that they resonate to. That is what we can almost say is a physical signature vibration. That the you that is inhabiting the physical construct that you are comfortable with. Now you may have met individuals that you cannot remember their name, try as you might. Every time you think of that person, you put a different name on them. Because the name that they have for you does not fit them. Sometimes, if the truth would be known, they're not comfortable with it either. But they have never thought of changing it. This Datre name took a couple of days in giving John and Aona different letters to put down on paper. Then we would connect up with Aona and feel the vibration when that word was said. That is how the name evolved. Now then, there are some of us that the first syllable will be very plain. The second syllable will have a lilt on the end of it or a different sort of pronunciation. The first part seems to stay pretty much the same. But depending upon the individual that comes through and finishes the session, the last part of the name becomes different. John has told us. So it does not really matter how you pronounce the name. The important part was that people were uncomfortable with the fact that we did not have a name, and there was no way that we wished to be identified every time we came in. Because in a single session there can be many that will come through. You see, because it is such a fascinating experience, because Aona has expanded her vibrational range. Many want to come in and have the experience. To them it is a very unique experience. There are many coming and going at all times. And sometimes one will start a sentence and another will finish it. You do not find that in ordinary channeling, I have been told. But you see, we don't wait for turns. Whoever happens to be there does the talking. That is why we don't like names. We have never had names, and to take turns is something we don't even think about. Whoever happens to be around when she's ready to channel, pop in, and there we go. So the name does not matter, it is only for identification. Question: if you Datre are aware of everything at once, do you focus on one thing and put your attention to it? Like contacting and speaking through the channel. And would that portion of Datre still be aware of everything at once? Datre, well, you see, as we have said before, Datre comprises many. Depending on the questions that are asked, it will kind of depend on who comes in. But you see, we're not body contained. In other words, we have a vastness that we can, shall we say, take a portion of us and put it someplace else and experience. So that portion that is experiencing, shall we say, one place, and the totality of us that is out in the big universe, it's all together and it's all separate. In fact, you can do that too. But physicality makes it very difficult. The only time you can do that in physicality is when you are out of the body, shall we say. You are still attached to the body, but you are still experiencing other experiences. But when you're experiencing, you're not aware of what your physical body is doing. There is a detachment there. In our case, there is no detachment. We can take portions of ourselves for experiences into different places. I know this is very difficult to understand, but that is the way that works. Question: after reading that book referring to conversations with God, it doesn't seem like Mr. Walsh is communicating with a dead zone entity. Datre: now, the dead zone entities are a multiplicity. There are different realities within that which you call your dead zone. Just as there are different reality expressions within physicality. Now this becomes complicated. I will use an example of being able to predict a future event. Now it has been said, and you've heard it many times before, well, such and such was predicted and it didn't happen. In which reality didn't it happen? In which reality did it happen? Just because you have your feet on planet Earth, that does not mean that the reality that you are living in and the neighbor next door is living in are one and the same. Now that's very mind-boggling. This is why it is difficult to explain realities, because realities merge and realities separate. Now the same thing exists in that which you call your dead zone. In the dead zone, your package of recent physical life goes with you. And that life experience you take with you. And that takes you into different realities within that which you call your dead zone. There are multiple realities within the dead zone also. Now in those realities that are as far as you can go within this planetary bubble, those realities out that far, if you want to call it that, or use that terminology for your mind's eye to figure, that touches the membrane of your planet's bubble, and those in that reality can touch into universal awareness. But it's a back and a forth, it's not there to stay, but the information is there. So from that realm, you can see where that material blends. Question: in the White Ramtha book, Ramtha talks a lot about God. Who or what is he talking about? Datre: now you must realize, as we have said before, everyone's concept of God is different. You don't have a fingerprint like anyone else in this whole planetary existence. What makes you think that your concept of God is the same as anyone else's? That is why physicality is so unique. Your aspect selves, or your whatever portions of the you that you are, is existing in what you call different time spans, in different realities and everything else. How much different was the concept of a God back in the 1500s and a concept of a God in today? Altogether different. In the reading of books, you can see the difference in the way individuals thought about God. That's in your literature. If any of you are readers, you know what has been going on in many of your time periods. Your concept of God as far as mass consciousness is concerned has changed consistently. Now we're back to that famous word again, evolution. So what was Ramtha's concept of God? What was he trying to get you to understand about the concept of God? That was that time, this is this time. And although it was a span of not that many years, to some individuals, that short span of years has been like an entirely different lifetime. They look back to that time when they were listening to that information and trying to understand what they thought at that time. And it's so different to what they think today, that it has no correlation, even within one personality's lifetime. So you see, everything keeps changing constantly, and there again, it is your concept of what you think of as a God. It is not important to anyone else. It's what you think and how you react towards that concept.